A huge storm is set to impact the United States over the next few days, and this will bring the return of significant severe weather, which includes damaging winds, large hail, and multiple tornadoes. Additionally, a major flooding threat is likely as we go into this weekend and early next week in parts of the Central Plains and the Mississippi River Valley, where already saturated grounds could pick up several inches of additional rainfall on top of what we saw at the beginning of the month, which was already historic. So in today's forecast, we are going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next 7 days, and we'll begin with what's happening across the country today. And generally speaking, there's not really much happening. Today is a beautiful day for most of the country. The Northeast, we have a little bit of rain ongoing, a little bit of snow, but nothing out of the ordinary. That storm system also is moving out over the next 24 hours. The Ohio Valley in the Southeast is sunny and dry as can be. Over in the Great Plains, this is going to be kind of a battle zone over the next week or so. We are about to see a lot more storm activity in this region as we go later into this week and eventually into the weekend. And it actually kicks off today. We do have a low-end threat of severe weather in the Central Plains, and this will eventually get worse and worse as we go into Thursday, Friday, and then eventually into the weekend, where multiple risks of severe weather are ahead. So let's jump right into the severe weather potential for the next several days, and it'll begin with today, which is Wednesday. We do have a marginal threat of severe weather in place in the Central Plains, which does include areas like Kansas City and back into northwestern Oklahoma, where there will be some isolated damaging winds and hail out of any supercells that are able to develop later this afternoon into the early evening hours. It is a relatively conditional risk. We're not exactly sure if storms will fire, but if they do, I think the best chance of that will be right down here in southern Kansas and northern Oklahoma. And once those storms form, they'll probably become more of a bowing area of just kind of scattered showers and thunderstorms, where there could be some damaging winds that heads towards Kansas City later this evening. And then by tomorrow, our risk of severe weather will be gradually increasing as we have a slight risk of severe weather for most of Iowa, Nebraska, Missouri, and as well as Minnesota. Marginal threat that goes just outside there of Chicago into western Wisconsin. The main concern here for tomorrow will be damaging winds and large hail, but really the primary concern is going to be large to very large hail. Definitely a good idea to protect your vehicles if you are in Iowa, Nebraska, or Missouri, as there will be a couple of discrete supercells that try to fire up around about 4, 5, 6 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. That'll be moving west to east, producing the threat for very large hail, and we could see hailstones as large as the size of baseballs. So good idea to protect your vehicles and any loose line items that you might have outside. Generally speaking, our tornado risk for tomorrow, it's very low. We do have a risk there. I just think it's going to be a very short-lived threat if we're able to see a tornado. The moisture is a big problem for tomorrow. Dew points are not really going to be that high, and we're going to have a pretty dry area in the mid-level, so it will likely prevent really much of a tornado risk existing. However, definitely still something to stay weather aware on, because it is a very low confidence and conditional risk. And if a storm were to fire, there is not an impossibility here that we could see a strong tornado. It's just overall confidence is very low for any tornado risk tomorrow, mostly because of our moisture. Now, as we go into Friday, the risk expands immensely. We have a much larger risk of severe storms from the Great Lakes into North Texas, where more damaging winds and large hail will be possible, in addition to a few tornadoes. Generally speaking, for Friday, this is a large area, but it's going to be mostly scattered severe storms. With that said, I could see a slightly more localized area for a higher risk back over in the Southern Plains and even back over in the Great Lakes. So a couple different areas to watch for as we go into Friday afternoon and evening. Pretty good chance that we'll be live on Friday, maybe even tomorrow as well. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon so you're notified if and when we do go live. Now on Saturday, this is one of the longest west to east slight risks I've ever seen. We have a slight risk that extends from southwest Texas all the way into Pennsylvania. It is a very narrow corridor where severe storms are going to be possible, including damaging winds, large hail, and once again a few tornadoes. I think our greatest risk will be back over in Texas, Arkansas, and as well as Oklahoma, which is an area that does need rain if you're in Texas, but if you're over in Arkansas, we really do not need more rain on top of what we already have seen. By Sunday, this risk is going to start to move further to the east. We'll have a more organized risk of severe weather on Sunday, I think, in Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, and back into the lower Midwest. This is a region that we could have a slightly more significant risk on Sunday, might even be higher than a slight risk. It's going to depend on the evolution of our storm system as we go into this weekend, but there could be some strong tornadoes on Sunday if our environment is ripe, which we're not sure if the storm mode's going to be right, and the ingredients yet are still a little bit unknown, but definitely a day that you're going to want to watch for in the Mississippi River Valley. Now let's go day by day, beginning with what's happening today. We'll have a couple of isolated supercells that'll attempt to fire in southern Kansas around about 5, 6, 7 o'clock. Right now, the HRRR model not really showing much of a sign of any supercells firing, but if any were to fire. Large hail and damaging winds is the main concern. I think we'll get some downburst damaging winds around and just after midnight out of whatever transpires here in southeast Kansas, which could impact areas near Kansas City. So just something to watch for, but again, damaging winds being the main concern, up to about 60 miles per hour. Now, in terms of tomorrow, our tornado risk is going to be a very short-lived one if we were to see one, I think, unless we get a lot more moisture. This is right around 7 to 8 o'clock tomorrow evening, and notice our significant tornado parameter values are in a very localized area, and really the area to watch for would be, I think, in western Iowa and southeastern Nebraska, in and around Omaha, where we could see an isolated tornado, but it's going to be really contingent on our moisture, because the moisture is just going to be so low tomorrow. Dew points mostly in the mid to upper 50s at the surface, but even as we go aloft, there is a very large dry area, so that could prevent a tornado threat from really existing. This is what it looks like tomorrow afternoon. A few scattered showers and thunderstorms will fire in northern Iowa and southeast Minnesota. These will actually produce some large hail and damaging winds, so be mindful if you're back up in Minnesota and western Wisconsin. These are mostly going to be elevated thunderstorms. Anything that's up here in northern Iowa, you can even see by around 7 o'clock. Those are looking pretty significant, and they probably will be. A lot of hail definitely going to be coming out of those storms. This is the area where we have a more conditional risk of supercells firing, but if they do fire, this is where large hail, damaging winds, and an isolated tornado would be in play. By around 8 o'clock, these storms are approaching the Iowa and Nebraska border right around Omaha, and then by 9 to 10, they're moving into southwest Iowa, northwestern Missouri, and then as we go later into the evening, these storms are going to weaken as they approach in Des Moines, with isolated hail and wind still being a possibility as these roll across central and eastern Iowa before this all clears out as we go into early Friday morning. Now, beyond today and tomorrow, we are going to start to see several troughs eject over the Rocky Mountains, which is going to lead to a lot of turbulent mixing, which essentially means warm and cold air will be mixing together and creating several different severe weather events in the Great Plains, the Ohio Valley, and back into the Deep South. So this is what it looks like as we go into late Thursday and Friday. Notice we have a large storm system that moves over the Rockies. That's going to bring that threat of severe weather tomorrow to Iowa, Nebraska, Missouri, and Minnesota, and even parts of Wisconsin. But by Friday, that storm is moving into the Great Lakes, and then we're also going to have a new low pressure system forming in the southern plains. So a dual threat here of different storm systems, which will collectively bring this long area of severe weather tomorrow from the Great Lakes back into the southern plains. So by Friday night, I do expect several storms to fire up, mainly across Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and Texas, with damaging winds, large hail, and a couple of tornadoes being possible. And then back over in the Great Lakes, we'll have several rounds of storms happening over here, where more damaging winds, hail, and a couple of tornadoes would be in play. Eventually, by Saturday, this is still a very elongated area of showers and thunderstorms where more severe weather is going to be possible. Our more organized risk of severe weather will be in Texas and Oklahoma and western Arkansas, where more wind, hail, and tornadoes will be in play as we have a more organized trough down there. By Sunday, this should be the best chance, I think, for a significant severe weather event. I think an outbreak of severe weather is a possibility on Sunday, but it's going to depend on a lot of different factors, but the trough overall is going to be much more organized by Sunday. And notice that we have a much more organized area of showers and thunderstorms by Sunday afternoon in Arkansas and as well as Missouri. And then eventually by the evening hours, this moves into Illinois, Indiana, and back into Tennessee and Kentucky. Now keep in mind that this is very different from what we saw on the GFS model and even the European model yesterday. It was a lot more focused into areas like Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. The latest run is showing this much further to the north and east. Definitely a big change there. We're going to have to keep watching this very closely as we go into Sunday and Monday, because this definitely could be a more significant risk of severe weather. By Monday, these storms are continuing to move to the east, and we'll be talking more about a large area for isolated to scattered severe weather on Monday, anywhere from Louisiana back into Pennsylvania and perhaps even into New York. And then after Monday, it's a very big question mark what's actually going to happen. The predictability becomes a lot lower for any severe weather events. What I think will probably happen is that we're going to have an active weather pattern down here in the southern plains in the southeast, with more severe weather during the middle of next week while high pressure builds back over in the Midwest. This would allow for some severe weather events to happen in the southern plains, but overall we wouldn't really see a whole lot of big storm systems over the Rockies. There's also a chance by the middle of next week that we have more big storm systems that come over the Rockies, and those impact the Midwest, the southern plains, and back into the southeast. Again, anything could really happen in the middle of next week, but I do think it's going to still stay very active, especially if you're in the southern plains and the southeast. We'll have to wait and see. And severe weather season, again, we are in full-blown gear now. We're going to see multiple severe weather events here over the next several weeks. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. We have a very active stretch of weather ahead. And unfortunately, a lot of rain is coming in a very short period of time to areas like the central and southern plains back into the Midwest. This is an area that really doesn't need that much rainfall. If you're in Texas and Oklahoma, you do, but further east you go, we've already had a lot of rain this month, and unfortunately more rain is going to be added to our already historic month for areas like Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and even a little bit back over in Kentucky and Tennessee, where there's already very saturated ground. So be very mindful as we go into this weekend and next week that, hey, you've already had a lot of rain. Turn around, don't drown on the roadways. And if you're in a low-lying area, stay weather aware as more rain is going to be coming on top of what you've already seen. Many areas, I think, in Oklahoma, southwest Missouri, will be picking up at least 3 to 5 inches of rain. Localized areas could be as high as 8 to 9 inches of rainfall. And as always, thank you all so much for watching today's forecast. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We should have daily video updates in addition to live streams coming up, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon so you're notified with the latest updates. And also make sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. The links are down below, or at MaxVelocityWX, for more rapid fire updates in terms of our severe weather threats that are coming up, and as well as our flooding threat.